You're listening to the Inspire Excellence podcast, recorded at the BVA headquarters with your hosts, Troy McClain and Tommy Ahlquist. Each episode is focused on shedding new light on different perspectives to create dialogue that inspires excellence.
Hey everybody, this is Troy McClain with Tommy Ahlquist on Inspire Excellence, and this week's theme, right before New Year's, is how to pave your goals to gold. And who better to do that with other than Kristin Armstrong?
Did you come up with this like on the fly or what?
I literally did. I don't know if that sounded good or not.
You have a future in this
It
business.
was great, but you definitely did some homework.
No, I didn't. No, I literally asked these guys. I didn't.
No, that was great.
That's pretty good.
I just rattled
Well,
it
I don't
off.
know how I'm going to follow that, but that's pretty good.
But thanks for being here.
Yeah.
By the way, we were just talking about, I was going to digress a little bit, then go forward. You were talking about a podcast and how during the podcast that there was everybody on the podcast and all of a sudden you hear this toilet flush.
Absolutely. You know, I think that anything goes on a podcast. And so that's what podcasts are all about. It's just having a little bit of fun. And I mean, I don't want to set high expectations for today because there are no toilets around, but
No.
I mean, I don't know. Well, something will happen. Something will happen. It's inevitable.
I'll give you one quick story about that. So, of course, I'm shooting my television show and everybody wears these wireless mics and you wire up anybody that you're going to interview in the future. Like, hey, we're going to interview you in 10 minutes, but let's get you wired right now. And just so you know, everyone has access to that wired mic channel. And one little gal, wonderful little gal, we're going to interview her. We say, we're going to get you wired up. It'll be 10 minutes, but it's hot. It's hot right now. So we all got a headset on. And she goes to the restroom and she's singing Monday, Tuesday, happy days.
No.
Wednesday, Thursday, happy days. Well, we all get it stuck in our head, not knowing that her mic's on. She comes walking out and all of us are singing the song and she realizes, uh-oh, I've been singing the song. So yeah, we're always hot. The mic's always on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, thanks for being here today. Hey, give us a little update here. I'll tell a quick story. So Kristin's husband, Joe, is a good friend and a true engineer.
I would say true.
Like
Yes,
every joke you've ever heard about engineers, it is Joe.
for sure. Plus a little redneck in him from being from Horseshoe Bend.
He is a redneck engineer.
It's amazing. And he used to have a mullet.
No, they should bring him back.
I actually took it away. It took me a few years once I met him, but I had to lift that mullet. It was
So if you think about mullet, redneck, Horseshoe Bend, engineering mind,
yeah.
that's all he thinks. Very calculated. You go shooting with him and it's a blast because he calculates everything down to this precision point. And then if you go visit their home, he vacuums the carpet a couple times a day. The garage has not one speck of dirt on it. It's crazy.
I'd freak him out.
Have you ever
You
heard
would
of a
freak him
carpet
out.
rake?
No.
Yeah, look it up. We have one.
You have to, after you vacuum, you have to rake it so that the lines
Yeah.
are perfect.
You know,
Shut the
that's
front
why.
door.
So anyway,
Yeah,
I'm
okay.
getting to the point here. So a couple of weeks ago, Kristin says, we're going to get a dog. And I'm like, okay, I love dogs. How is that going to work with Joe? You know, dog, house,
Yeah.
potty training.
Oh.
No control.
This is like completely contrary to this guy. And this is not going to work. Right. So they get the dog, Mia.
Yes, Mia.
And so Saturday I saw Joe and he has melted. He has turned from mullet redneck boy into.
Oh,
So
compassionate.
give us an update.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, I never see Joe sit still on a couch.
Right.
And but when Mia wants to sit on his lap and snuggle,
Mhm.
Joe's super like chill. And when Mia has an accident in the home, it's no longer a big deal. But if I spilled like lemonade on the floor, it would be
Huge.
like, holy moly, you did it again, Kristin. And I'd be trying to sneak up the wipe. And so now it's just all accepted. But still, I would say it's not accepted with Lucas and myself.
Yes, of
But at
course.
least now Lucas and I can blame Mia if we need to.
We have 4 dogs, and it's been the blessing of my life because just like what you said, it used to be, Troy, you do this, and now I just go, one of the dogs. Oh, look at that little doggy. Is she
Yeah.
a golden doodle?
She is a Labradoodle.
Labradoodle.
Yeah.
Fantastic. They don't shed, do they?
No, they don't.
Yeah, they're
No,
fantastic
it's a
dogs.
little mini too, so it won't
Oh.
get more than like 20 to 22 pounds.
Oh, but she's gold, right?
She is. She's definitely like a little caramel color.
Same color of your 4 gold medals? It's kinda
Yeah,
weird.
yeah,
It's-
yeah.
I don't know if you guys did that on purpose or by design. You got 4 gold medals?
Nope.
Nope, I don't.
But that's a cute dog.
That is a cute dog.
That's a cute dog. Okay. That's the Mia update. We should post a picture of Mia for the podcast, McLovin. She's so cute. Okay, Kristin, give us an update on Pivot. It's been a big year for you.
It has.
Before we blaze in, what we're going to get into is goal setting, how to mindset changes, new year. But before we get there, tell us about Pivot.
Yeah, Pivot. I can't believe that we've only been open for 6 months, to be honest with you. It has been such a journey. We opened up 10 Mile back on the beginning of June in 2019, and we just opened our downtown location at Pioneer Crossing the first week in November.
Fantastic.
And so we set out lofty goals to open 1 facility, 2 facilities, 3 facilities, 5. And downtown right now is just killing it. And I think that the Treasure Valley is growing so much that there's a place for everybody. And Pivot has become a place of many. I think that the business professionals downtown are really loving the fact that they can actually hop over before work at noon, but even like before they head home. But also I'm finding that exactly what our goals were is that there are people who live out in Meridian near 10 Mile, and they're finding that on the weekends, they're going to the 10 Mile location. They weren't members prior to downtown because everyone wants convenience at all times in life. But I would say the priority is people want to work out while they're at work. So once they leave the home, they don't want to leave the home and then come back and then go to work. So it is killing it. It's been a lot of fun. We also just partnered with a health insurance company, Select Health. And so no longer are there barriers to having access to a fitness facility. Now, for most people who are covered under Select Health, you can show your health insurance card and you're a member. Here's the thing, is when was the last time you showed or pulled out your health insurance card for something that was for health versus for sickness?
That's right.
And so I think that we're showing what true healthcare is, and that sick care is a different category.
Yeah.
And so I'm really enjoying being part of making change. You wouldn't believe how many people told me that, good luck. Health insurance companies are greedy. It's never going to happen. Good luck. We've been banging down the doors before. And so what people don't realize is it's kind of like when I made different comebacks. Oh, you're a mom. There's no chance. Good luck. Oh, you're over 40. Good luck. There's no chance. Every time someone says that, my coach used to say, that's just fueling her fire.
Yeah.
So watch out.
I pity the fool to anyone that says that to you. You can't do that. You shouldn't do that. Yeah. Those are motivating words right there.
But they're motivating for you as well.
They are for both of us, for all
entrepreneurs in general.
Well, I only hang out with people that like respond to these types of kind of, I don't know, like-minded people. I guess that's the best way to say it is when I'm around like-minded people, I surround myself by people who are challenged when someone says they can't do that. Or when I'm in a room having a meeting and everyone at the table is saying, well, there's just no way. We just can't make that happen. And I'm always the one at the end that says, why not?
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah. And I want to go off on that a little bit. Like-minded people, I explained this to somebody else, that like-minded people are anyone that is like-minded. But remember, there's welfare lines that are like-minded people. There's poverty lines that are like-minded people. And so when you surround yourself with like-minded people, surround them around you're the like-minded of what you want to be and where you want to go. Because in my opinion, by doing that, without a network, you have no net worth. And so you have a network that allows you to have a net worth, not just in finances, but in faith, family, finances, and just forward thinking. And so that like-mindedness has to be selected. And I've seen you do that time and time again. As intelligent and brilliant, and you'll pay me more when I say more about you. Like as intelligent, keep going. He is. I've always found this, and I'm not gonna. McLevin, you're gonna laugh. He's not always the smartest guy in the room. He's not. That's true, right? And I'm saying that, and you're not always the strongest person in the room. But what I've seen is you put yourself in there, and then those goals, you rise to the highest level of incompetence. And so if you're always
in fact, if you find yourself in a room where you're being challenged by people around you, you've got the right people around you.
Yeah.
Right?
Definitely.
And sometimes those are heated, right? Sometimes those, you want strong opinions, you want strong players in that room, you want a team that's going to challenge you. And if they're not, you got the wrong people. Before we leave this, though, I know the pivot story is still being written, and we rarely stop and pause and celebrate any successes. That's just kind of what you do. You just
that's what we do.
It's the next thing,
no question.
Right? But I'll tell you, it's been really fun, Kristin, to watch you from a vision of this wasn't about, hey, I want to open gyms. This was, I want to create programming that changes people's lives. And that programming wasn't just classes. It was mindset. It was a community where you feel accepted. It was some way to help motivate you to say, no, I can make the changes in my life that are going to affect my health. And then in the middle of all of it, you're building that out, and watching you do it was incredible. It was your name. So you're stamping this with your name. And that was clearly early on. The rest of us just said, hey, you're taking your brand, you're taking your name, and it's going to be excellent. And then you add Joe to it, right? It's going to be meticulous. Every box is going to get checked. And then in the middle of it, you say, oh, by the way, we can't do this without nutrition. So you start a nutrition line, a nutrition company, and you personally develop all of the ingredients for the nutrition line you started. And it's just been, I guess, just to watch it happen, and now to have a couple of them open, to have the nutrition line launched, looking back at this last year, pretty incredible. Pretty incredible what got done in 1 year.
It's hard to, I just think back about the lunch we had and kind of the idea. Like Tommy said, my dream, even though I majored in exercise physiology, and most of the people I went to college with would probably say, oh, this just is right up her alley. But I never really set out to say I wanted to open gyms. That wasn't what I set out to do. Through all my work experience and my athletic experience, it really made sense to make something much larger than what I would consider a gym. We are definitely a fitness center, a place of health. That's why we have the word lifestyle in there. And I can't choose the demographic that's going to show up. I, on paper, knew what my dream demographic would be.
Right.
And it's happening. People are saying that they feel welcome, that there's already community within a month of opening downtown. I watch people come in every day, and they're already talking to one another. They're meeting one another, and they've never felt so comfortable. And then obviously on top of that, they do talk about how this is the cleanest place they've ever actually been to. And so all of those things are very important. We just have a very high standard and quality, because I feel that when you're ready to make change and you walk through the doors and you get yourself there, then it's our responsibility as Team Pivot to deliver high, consistent quality programming, to be friendly. Because at the end of the day, you have to remember that somebody that walks in to Pivot, that might be the only ask all day to them that says, hey, Troy, how you doing today? Yeah. That might be the only time that person's asked how they're doing. And we know the root of health and making change is happiness. And if you're happy, you can make change. If you are doing everything right, fueling yourself really well, and you're moving really well, and you're sleeping really well, and you're prepared, it doesn't matter. If you're not happy, the root, those changes won't be made. Period, 100%.
So where does that, I had this conversation the other day with another group talking about, I prefer to hire athletes. That's just me. That's not being like discriminatory or anything, but I want them to have some type of athletic background. And so a lot of people say, well, he or she was just an athlete, but they're not a business person. My position on that is, if you're an athlete, you understand business, because you take those principles into your business. And if you're a business person, you should be an athlete of some capacity, whether it's shooting, whether it's, competing in something. How did you go from the transition from the proverbial battlefield of Olympics to the business field of Pivot?
That transition, just like you said, it's a lot more, there's a lot more parallels than people really realize. In fact, there are so many times where I struggle and I'm having a hard time, no matter what it may be, starting up a new business or having to work really hard and not having time and having to prioritize and actually say no to people and think, how am I ever going to fit all of this in? But it was the same question that I used to ask myself as an athlete. And one of my best friends, as we were going into my 4th Olympic Games, she looked at me when I announced my comeback and she said, can you promise that we're going to have a little bit of fun this time? And I'm like, there's not much fun about it. And so after I won a gold medal in Rio, she was there, Joe was there, Lucas was there. And we just started laughing one night because after the podium, I get swept away to all the media. I'm completely exhausted. I wake up the next day and we all look at each other and we're like, when are we going home? And everyone's like, aren't you going to stay and like hang out in Rio? And we were on to our next thing. And so it's no different as an athlete. You don't celebrate your successes enough. And I'm trying to do that with our staff I'm trying to celebrate more of our successes and take a moment. So when I have my management meeting, I start off with saying, we're just going to take a moment to talk about all the amazing things that we've done.
That's not for us. I think that's not intuitive sometimes because when you lay in bed, you probably only think, probably like I do, you stay up as soon as you wake up at 3:30, you go to work. It's just kind of what you do, but you're thinking not about what you've accomplished, but what you still have ahead of you. And so it's hard, I think, sometimes to because you're so driven and you surround yourself with these great folks, but your vision of where you're headed is where your mind is. And you've got to figure out along the way how to celebrate for those that are in the trenches working to execute the vision. And it's a lesson to learn. I'm not that great at it either.
It's hard.
We have a joke around our office here at BVA that we don't celebrate anything. I mean, we'll get something done and it's like 5 minutes of, hey, that was great. Now what's the next thing? And I'm getting better at it, but it's really interesting. I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. So, and I don't know the answer to this question. This is going to be fun.
I might not either.
So this is going to be fun.
You scare me.
So during the campaign, there was a time when I was dead. I mean, I was just tired. And I went to lunch with Kristin one day and I said, man, this is just painful. And I'll never forget the answer to this. It's to the day I said, how do you deal with pain? How do you deal with, and she looked at me, she says, I eat pain. She said, when I'm feeling pain with my competitors, I know that they're in pain and I use it for my good. I use it against them.
The fuel.
It's a fuel. And I'll never forget what she said. If you're feeling pain, they're feeling pain too. So just handle it better than they are. Was very insightful for me. So here's the question. Going through this last year and a half, what has been the thing that has surprised you most and been the hardest for you? Because I can't wait to hear what your mind does, because there have been times, Kristin, it's hard. Starting small businesses, you look at failure rates and success rates of small businesses, it's hard. The other thing about starting small businesses, for anyone listening out there, you don't know what the challenges will be until you get in the middle of them. You can plan all you want. You can prepare all you want. You can have pro formas. You can have timing. You can have everyone has great plans.
But that's all two-dimensional.
Yes.
You got to get three-dimensional.
You got to get three.
You got to get three. Two-dimensional is a projection. Two-dimensional is this. So I love the question.
So the question is specifically on those days where it's just not going like you planned and you're ready to and you're laying at bed at night, what goes through the mind of Kristin Armstrong to bring you back in that next day? And is it different than us?
Wow, that's a great question. Those days have been more frequent than usual. I think that those moments, and it's interesting you asked that because I just had a moment just a couple of days ago where there's moments that are heightened over others, and there's moments I say that I internalize. So there's moments I internalize and I just self-talk and I talk myself through it. And what helps me is when I'm feeling a struggle or I'm feeling that something isn't going the way I want it to go,
right.
I break it down into little pieces and I imagine and visualize how would it be when I can get it back on track.
Yep.
And what
I
is it
love
gonna
that.
take?
Expound on that a little bit more. Because I think that
it's the end in mind
for people that everyone's going to have problems, right? Whether it's your business life, your personal, you have times when you are just overwhelmed with problems. And what you just said, again, I didn't know what your answer would be, but tell us again how you break that down and how you find the light and the hope and the pathway, right? Through each segment of the problem.
Yeah. And so I take the problem and it's overwhelming. It can be anywhere. It can become multidimensional because it could be anywhere from a member having come with communication that may be not a positive, maybe just a complaint. And then it could be because of something like a piece of equipment that is the control of it is through a vendor that may be in Colorado. And then you have maybe a staff at the front desk that didn't handle the situation properly. And then you have a manager who maybe escalated that. And now it's 100% like a beast on my plate. And that's just one small example. That has nothing to do with like, you know, the more detailed ones like the pro formas and not hitting numbers and things like that. But when it comes to that, it can be very overwhelming. But like I said earlier, is I visualize what I want the outcome to be and what would be the most positive outcome. And then I think about what's realistic and what can I do and what kind of timeline can I do. And I always think about how can I get the end person, which to me is a customer, and how can I make them feel satisfied while we work the issues out on the back end and solve that problem where it's not even public facing.
Yeah. And that's very common, I think, in instinctually, I'll just tell you that's in most entrepreneurs. I don't even know that we do it by design, or we always think of the end in mind. It's the same thing that I'll do. What's the end in mind? The end in mind, and I'm going to always assume the best. And so I put the end in mind, and then I just work it backwards. That way I become the architect of my own destiny, and I can navigate it. And I tell my whole team that. What's the end in mind? Hey, this guy's coming in mad. This guy's coming in pissed off.
Yes.
I'm like, okay, what's the end in mind? Well, I don't want to be mad. How do you not make him mad? Well, we got to fix this, fix that. Troy's going to take this, take that. And it sounds like you do the same thing. For those entrepreneurs out there, and I've watched you just be a zombie during the campaign, but I've watched you know the end in mind. What keeps you going is not nutrition. It's not sleep, because you're working on I think 0.5 hours of sleep. It's the end in mind.
Yeah.
And that's what drives most of these entrepreneurs, these athletes, and those that are listening and watching. That's the road to gold for your goals is keeping the end in mind.
Absolutely.
And also I always will hashtag my athletes, and I always say, you know, I love questions. I love when my athletes say, well, why am I doing this workout? Or, hey, when am I going to start this part of my periodization? Hey, you know, this and hey, that, and hey, everything every day. I always say
for a minute before. So Kristin is coaching.
Yes.
Tell.
I coach a few athletes that will be heading to Tokyo.
Yes.
So right now I have 2 that will be in. Both of them are medal capable. And then I have another athlete that has a chance as well to be part of the Olympic Games. And so to me, I look at that as my next gold medal. I'm ready to pass that baton, and nothing would make me more happy. And I wouldn't say that 4 years ago that I was ready to pass that off, but now I embrace it. And now the challenge for me is how can I coach somebody who has talent to be the best in the world? And but I always say to them, hashtag trust the process.
Yeah.
Because when they question me or they're feeling insecure, and I can feel it right away. Yeah. I'm just like, trust the process.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, what happens is we become very reactionary. And so I might have one of my managers ask me a question, and it is a strategic question.
Yep.
And they may be looking for an answer from me, like snippety quick, because that's how I respond. Is for those things that need to be responded to, I'm a responder. For those things that I need time to have it absorb, sometimes I feel like we are reactionary. So you always have to make sure that you keep to that vision. And though you can't always see the end of the staircase at the end of the tunnel, you have to take that one step at a time. But so often people get into this race of planning and acting, and you have these check boxes on your sheet, and you're like, I did it. But at the end of the day, if you don't have a vision and you don't have a purpose behind it, then it's really hard to actually have any impact at the very end of the day. And so as I know that I have 5 new things that I want to launch at Pivot, I also know strategically I can't launch those in January. It's going to take time. It's going to take patience. And it's no different than as we set out in 2020. I mean, today it all came to me. I teach cycling down at the downtown Pivot every Friday. I taught this morning as well because a coach really needed, she wanted me to step in for her. And so when I think of those things, we are just completing a decade. And I wasn't thinking about like we are entering into 2020.
Yes.
And one of my favorite things that I really want to put out there is I want to ask the question of what were some of your favorite trends in fitness that did not work or maybe worked in the last decade? Yeah. Because I call them trends because so many people are acting out of a response to, oh, this is the newest, brightest, shiniest thing out there.
Shiny lure syndrome.
But you can't make change and have it sustainable and lifelong unless you take one step at a time. It's like, great, I'm glad you lost 20 pounds in 2 weeks. Not realistic. Not realistic. Let's make change and let's make goals for 2020 that are going to be sustainable. And guess what? Sustainable goals don't happen overnight.
Right. And that's the same in business, though. You got to have sustainability, scalability.
Yeah.
And then you got to have the right mindset.
Let's go into goal setting. So, this is the time of year that, as you know, I've been around the two of you, big goal setters. What are some of the principles you would suggest to listeners that you've used that have made you successful in the past as you set new goals?
You want me to go first? I got the nod, like, you go first. I'm on the spot now. Here's what it's funny that you talk about trust the process. I challenge everyone that I'm coaching or any young business person that I've worked with. I always laugh inside because they trust the GPS machine to take them into the lake. If it says turn right or left, that you hear reports, they go into the lake. But God forbid you trust a 4-time gold medalist to train you on how to get a gold medal. God forbid you trust someone who's taken 3 successful exits and 7 figures on how to take a company 7 figures. But you'll trust a GPS machine. And you'll go, hey, if it says turn right, I turn right. If it says turn left, I turn left. And I go, yeah, ask that lady that turned into the lake, or ask that lady that turned over a cliff. And they asked her why, or they asked him why, because the GPS said so. When you have a gold medalist, here's what I would say to answer your question. Trust the process, just like she said. I would ask, and I lead with a question. Who do you listen to? For your goals and objectives, who do you listen to? You listen to those who have been where you are and are where you want to go. So if I'm a cyclist and I want to be a gold medal, she's been where I am because I'm starting out. And she is where I want to go because she's a 4-time gold medalist. So I have to answer those questions. Who do I listen to? Those who have been where I are and where I want to go. The second thing I would say, it's exactly what she said, is trust the process. And then my final is you have to have the end in mind. If you don't have MVP, everybody thinks MVP, in my opinion, they think it means most valuable player. No, it's mission, vision, purpose. So what's your MVP? My last thing I'd say is objectives stay the same.
This guy.
That's mine.
I love it. How do you follow that up? Where does writing things down come with the two of you? Writing down goals.
You go.
I think those are really important. I think that actually it's even more important to tell somebody your goals. That makes you a little bit more accountable, because writing them down is still makes you accountable to yourself. Mm-hmm. And it's really easy to back out of those. There's nothing better than doing it as a team. I think that a lot of things happen under the same roof. So if you're a significant other and you make a goal together, but if you don't have the same goals, it's really hard, because if Joe wants to, intermittent fast for however many hours, and
that was our most recent challenge, me and Joe.
And I don't want to participate. And I don't want to participate. It's like I have to hand him a trough at like 6:00 for him to eat before 8. And so if it's 7:45 and his cutoff was 8 p.m., I'm just like, wow, how are we going to eat in 15 minutes? So I become kind of this victim of whatever he wants to do. So I think that it has to be a collaboration. One of the things when I think about goals, and this really comes from athletes, and I'm sure just like everything, it really is, there's so many parallels. And so I always call it, and Tommy's familiar with this term I use, you have lifestylers, you have pack fill, you have these people who love the idea of like being a professional athlete, or love the idea of like winning a race, or love the idea of being on a professional cycling team. There's the same thing that happens in health and fitness, is people love the idea of like, what would it be like if I was 30 pounds less? That would be amazing. And so the reason why people aren't going to the experts and they're listening to the GPS and they're following and they're going into the lake and they're going to do this they're going to order this book, because this book, obviously they hired some celebrities to tell them that, oh, they too look amazing because of this book. But at the end of the day, we all know that none of this works. It's a lot of hard work. And it's a lot of hard work to not only, the easy part is when people are like, I'm going to go ahead and I want to lose X amount of weight. That's the easy part, is that initial piece. Now the maintenance and continue to be good and to continue on this life changing journey is the hard part.
Retention. It's
Yes.
retention of your goals. It's
Yes.
retention.
And I think I agree with everything you both have said. For me, one of the traps I love setting goals, always have since I was a boy. I just write down goals. I think you need to, people call them New Year's resolution, whatever you want to call them, but it's nice to have a reset. It's nice to have short and long-term goals. It's nice to write them down. It's nice to tell someone about those goals. I think sometimes people suffer when they do their goal making of not being big enough, not putting some ceiling on what they're actually trying to accomplish. Because I'll give you a couple of examples. If I set a goal that is something that I'm going to do every day, and then a week into my goal, I'm not doing it every day, well, forget that. But if I have a goal that's a little more lofty and out there, my daily, I'm going to get thrown off daily. I'm going to get thrown off weekly. But if I'm reminding myself and telling others where I'm headed, I'm going to get there. And so I think writing them down is important. I think setting goals that are realistic. You'll hear people don't set unrealistic goals. Well, this world has changed when people don't set unrealistic goals. This world has changed when you disrupt, when you do things differently. So
that's right.
So
but go back to your writing them down, and just so, because I agree with you. If you write down your lofty and your audacious goal, and you say it has to get done in a year, 2 years, whatever, all you do is got to work it backwards.
That's right.
You take it in chunks. So my 100% goal is 2 years from now. I divide it by 24. That means I got to be 1/24th every month. Now I could be under in 1 month. And pick it up on the second month or the third month.
And that goal's got to be authentic.
Yeah,
it's got to be. You got to really want it. You throw something out there. To your point, you want to pack fill, right? But people say I want to do this, but do you really want to do it? You say you want to get there, but are you really want to do that? If you really want to get there, if you have that goal, you'll get there. And it won't be the path you think it is. I guess that's the thing with goal setting for me. It's not. You start a business. I think of the businesses we've started and had some successes with, and the ultimate outcome was the vision and mission and where we were going. But man, we got thrown off monthly, weekly off that plan and had to redefine ourselves, reshape ourselves to get there. That happens a lot in personal relationships too.
But Kristin said it, and just for all you viewers and listeners, you heard her say it very clear. It's hard. Here's what I will say. I get challenged on all the time. Success is simple, but it's not easy. Like you said, it was easy. I said it was simple. Didn't say it was easy. Here's a simple path. You're going to work on 2 to 3 hours of sleep. You're going to sacrifice birthdays, Christmases, relationships. You're going to have to ask yourself, how much are you willing to give up to get this, whatever this end in mind is? Because it does become a balancing act, but it is a sacrifice act too.
And there's no substitute for work. I mean, one of the lines that I'll always forget, a good friend, he says, everyone wants to be successful. Everyone wants to make X amount. Everyone wants to have all these things, but very few people are willing to sacrifice what it takes to get there.
It's the question I told you, and I'll share this with you. I always, maybe it's wrong or right. You'll forgive me later. Everybody wants to go to heaven, right? Nobody wants to die to get there. There's only one way to get there. You gotta be dead. But I don't want to die, but I do want to go. I call that in the military world, they call it tactical. Everyone wants to buy all the gear. Everybody wants to take a picture with Kristin. Everybody wants to join Pivot. Everyone wants to say, I'm working on my gold medal. Nobody says, I'm getting my gold medal. I'm got my gold medal.
Yeah, I think that I'm going to challenge your word because that's what I like to do.
Love it.
So the word sacrifice, I don't look at it as sacrifices because I look at it as you get to make life change.
Love that.
So here's the thing. You don't have to pay your mortgage. You don't have to go to work. You get to pay your mortgage.
Choices then.
Because not everybody has the opportunity or is provided the opportunity to actually do this. And I think a lot of times we talk about goal setting. We talk about all this thing. In the first pillar at Pivot, we have 4 pillars. And the first pillar we focus on is prepare. It's one of my strengths. It's something that I needed to do, and it always came naturally. But I call it mapping. I don't call it goal setting. I say, hey, we have to create our map. And it's no different than what you were saying, Troy, is you always have to create a map because you're going to go sideways. You're going to go left, right. But there's not one way to get to the end result. a coach might say, you're going to do 5x5 minute efforts today. And another coach might say, you're going to do 6x4 minute efforts today. It's the same thing, right? And so it's just a different map on how you're going to get there. And so I think that making sure that you are mapping, making sure that you always remember that you get to do this. It's for yourself. It's for your health. You're giving yourself great health. And if I had one tip that it's not a certain program, it's not a certain thing, one simple tip as you go into the new year and you have these lofty goals is a lot of times we're like, we're going to eat well and we're going to move and we're going to prepare and we're going to actually recover. Really? Because I'm only going to do one thing and I want to focus on one thing. And so I think that it's when we talk about sustainability and we talk about having this lifelong journey of health, you want to pick one thing and do it really well.
Yeah.
So if you want to pick fuel and you want to eat well in the home, then you know what? Don't worry about getting 3 workouts in the first 4 or 6 weeks of the new year, because when you start changing your life and eating well and meal prepping and doing everything amazing around food, you try fitting in 3 workouts when you haven't done either, right? So get onto something, create habit change, do it pretty well, and then you can trickle little things in. But it's kind of like us at Pivot, we're not going to say, let's build 5 tomorrow. Like we built 1, we built a second, but we're spreading these out. And just like in business, you can't get everything in your vision all in one thing. Yeah. Why do we look at fitness different? Why is it in the fitness world when we're trying to make health changes? Why do we do everything all at once? We don't do it in business.
Eyes versus stomach kind of attitude. Like you're a little kid, your eyes are bigger than your stomach. But I love retraining the brain, and thank you for that. Saying, and I hope you guys heard that from Kristin. It's not a sacrifice as much as it's a choice, and you get to have these options. So that is a fantastic New Year's resolution for everyone that's listening and watching, because you're leading with the positive dominant versus the negative dominant. The negative is it's a sacrifice. Positive is it's choice.
And add a little bit more to that, I think one of the things that I have to constantly train myself, and I think human nature for us to feel entitled. No matter where we came from, you get an attitude of, well, it should be that way. I should count on that. We shouldn't count on anything. We wake up every day. We get the chance to do the things we do. We're blessed with all of these opportunities. We can, you can just look at things differently if you start living a life of gratitude. And as you set New Year's goals, look at it as not, I have to do this or I want it, but I get to make these changes. I get to change. I get the choice to do these things. And it's just a different way of looking at it.
And to that point, exactly, from the very beginning of today's podcast in our discussion, I spoke about the root of change is happiness.
Yep.
And if the one change you make or you bring in the new year isn't eating well, it's not moving, it's not sleeping, and the one thing you do is you wake up every morning and you state or write out loud gratitude, something that you're happy about, then your mindset's ready to make change. Yep. And maybe that's March 1.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not January 1, but if you're going to start off January 1 and you're not happy about this, I actually advise you wake up and just start talking about things you're thankful for.
Mm-hmm. But happy is not an overnight process. I want to make sure that I'm hearing that correct. You ER doctor, in the hospitals, you got the frowny face and the smiley face, and there's 10 faces in between, right?
Yes.
So you don't go from how are you feeling? Well, I feel like crap, and the next day I feel great.
No,
you're tracking progress.
But as we wrap this up, several years ago I read a talk, and it was a great motivational talk. It was called the Abundant Life, Living the Abundant Life, and the point of the whole thing was, if you really want to live an abundant life, it is a life of gratitude. It's a life of giving. It's a life of attitude of, hey, I'm grateful for this day and I'm going to start that way. There's a lot of us, regardless of our situations, where the choices we make begin with us, begin with the way we look at the world. I have another good friend of mine that calls it arrows out. He'll say that so many of us every day live arrows in. We walk through life wondering how things are affecting us. That person did this to me. That person did this to me. I can't do this because of this, because of that. And he says, I just have to always check myself and make sure I'm living life arrows out, which is, what am I doing? How can I affect this? How can I help others? And I always it's a very simple way. Are you arrows out or arrows in? And even with I look at my son right now, who's he's in school, he's in Baton Rouge, he's away, he's trying to make it, and he calls me sometimes. He's like, "Man, this is hard." I'm like, "Yeah, but are you arrows out or are you arrows in? Right? Are you looking for ways to look around you and look for those opportunities?" So that's one of my goals for this next year. Again, I always keep it up: is live life arrows out, right? And you got to be careful, because if you're not careful, it happens to all of us, and you need to check yourself frequently. But
I love that. As we wrap this up, Kristin, how do we get a hold of you? What would be some leading messages to tell people? I'm not holding you. Well,
one of my goals is to actually.
What's your phone number?
I know, right?
No, what he meant to say is.
Tommy will interpret for me.
What I meant to say is it's Pivot. What's the website? What's the social media?
Yeah.
There's a lot of great things, a lot of great resources at Pivot. You can go to pivotbyka.com.
Yeah.
Pivotbyka.com. Social media.
Same thing, Pivot by KA. So
and your nutritional stuff.
Yeah, our nutritional stuff. You can find everything at Pivot by KA.
Got it.
And so as we kind of sign off, the one thing I want to encourage people to do is, I say this to pretty much all the kids, and I think it actually transfers over to adults, is we're born with this great gift to believe. And it's the belief in, we wake up and there's days where we believe in ourselves, and there's days that for some reason, we don't believe in ourselves. But that gift can always be given back. You can always help others believe in them. And so if you see people and you're surrounded by people that are having a hard time believing in themselves, if you start believing in them, they're going to believe in themselves again. So sometimes we have to give that gift of belief back to others. And I always think about the gift of belief, because we were all born with it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just sometimes we wake up and it's gone away for a little bit. But if you can remember that and give that gift back to others, I think that really goes a long way, because half the battle is when somebody shares their goals, instead of being like, you feel it. And instead it's like, "Hey, awesome. How can I help you? Do you want me to go walk with you? Do you want me to, where do you want to go meet at a class?" Like, it's that gift of belief. And once someone's on the right track, then it's contagious. It's amazing.
And Sun Tzu, The Art of War, I don't know if you guys have ever read it, one of the greatest business books ever, that was written in Asia, like in the 12th century. When the weakest, act the strongest. When the strongest, act humble. And so that's all you're saying, is push through that. Everybody, we're going to wrap up this, but here's what I'm hearing for New Year's resolution. I'm hearing from Tommy an attitude of gratitude. You want to have an attitude of gratitude. You want to have arrows out, not arrows in. I'm hearing from Kristin that you really want to have the end in mind, and you want to retrain the brain to see things as not sacrifices, but as choices, and you get to as the blessings of life. But also, I'm hearing from each and every one of you, surround yourself with a network so that you have a net worth of gold towards your goals. Ladies and gentlemen, Tommy Ahlquist, Kristin Armstrong, Troy McClain, Inspire Excellence. We'll see you January 2nd.
You've been listening to the Inspire Excellence podcast. We invite you to find something that inspires you this week. Join us again for our next episode.